Hi there. We want to welcome you to the first session of the First Peter study that Eastridge embarked upon today. We appreciate you joining us. You have just watched the first session, which covers the first chapter of First Peter. I said first a lot in that introduction.
A lot of firsts.
A lot of firsts. So what our hope is here is for Alan and I to go through a bit of application that is specific not just to the Eastridge family, but to the moment that we're in now. So let's dive right in. One of the themes that we pick up on really quickly in the book of First Peter, and I think also was shown in the video, is that this was a letter that was written to Christians in the midst of persecution, and Christians that were in the middle of a season of testing, which I think is probably putting it incredibly mildly. There is a theme, though, of this book being written to exiles, to Christians who view themselves as exiles. Let's start with kind of an exploration of the word in terms of how it applies to us now and what you see as it relates to being exiles in this world.
Yeah, the Greek word here with exiles doesn't just have a connotation of they're exiles, but they're chosen exiles. There are people that are, yes, they're marginalized, but they are set apart for something very, very specific. And I think Peter is being very intentional with his language here, that he is calling back to Old Testament type language, where we have the Israelites, who are God's chosen people, who of course endured many, many years of exile. And he's kind of hearkening back to, and by the way, there are a lot of Gentile Christians who are reading this book who have not been included in that sort of heritage, that legacy,
right,
that are now being included in that. They
right,
have a new family identity. And we see that theme so much here in 1 Peter chapter 1 and throughout the book.
Well, so let's start at the very beginning. To God's elect strangers in the world. I am really interested in, and maybe it's my own brain, but I'm very interested in the modern application of strangers in the world and what it means to be strangers in the world. So I asked you the question when we were talking through what we would do today. I asked you the question, how do you hear that phrase and then apply it to your worldview of where we are right now in 2020, of Christians being strangers in the world and exiles in this world?
It's funny because when I hear strangers in the world, actually, there have been many Bible camps I've been to, or maybe it just seems like there were so many, where they used aliens as kind of like the theme, and like sort of this extraterrestrial theme of we are these visitors from another world and we feel so strange here with all the strange customs of Earth. I mean, it was perfect for a youth ministry.
Oh,
right?
Sure,
that was a great theme.
Right.
And it is strange to think that we live here on Earth, but somehow we would be strangers in this place that we've grown up in.
Right.
And it seems like that in itself is sort of a strange calling, but it's what we are called out of, we were called into, and choosing to be Christ followers. We are no longer at one with the world. All of a sudden there's this dissonance of we no longer quite fit the way we used to. We fit in a different way, in a way that, and we're supposed to be different. We're chosen, and that's the way we're supposed to be set apart, but there's something in us that feels like we don't quite fit anymore the way we used to before we were Christians. There's a new identity.
So the readers of First Peter, they had some concerns. The concerns that they were up against were not what we face in this culture now. So we are not at the moment. Listen. The way 2020 is gone, I have no idea what's coming next. But at least at the moment, nobody is being threatened with legal action for being a Christian. Although as the words come out of my mouth,
you might have to take that back.
No, I might. But as the words come out of my mouth, yeah, we've had a very weird conversation in 2020 for the first time ever about the legality of worship assemblies in general.
That's right.
So that's not completely lost on our modern culture. But that's still not what they would have been hearing. These people were not being told they can't assemble as Christians because it might ruin Christmas dinner, or because it might, or because it would spread something to their grandparents. They were being told that they couldn't assemble together as Christians because in this moment, in this cultural moment that they were in, Christians were being scapegoated for all the wrongs of the world and of Roman society. And so they were being persecuted and being tortured and being killed. Yeah. It's a lot different than the world we're in now. But the idea that part of being exiles is a choice that we make, and part of it is the fact that the world is going to treat us differently, I think go hand in hand. Did we cover everything as it relates to exiles?
No, you did great. That's exactly right. There's a part of being exiled that we choose when we take on Christ, but there's another part that is forced upon us because that is the way the world is going to treat Christians. We are going to be different.
And we shouldn't be surprised by that.
No.
Okay, so this is something that to me is really important for where we're at culturally. A lot of us are surprised, very surprised at the struggles that we've had and the struggles that the church has had and that really even believers culturally have had. Because I think sometimes we don't believe the parts of the Bible where we're told really clearly that it's going to be hard,
Right.
and that people are going to reject us. We tend to relegate that message to youth groups, but we sometimes forget that as adults that this is going to be hard. This is going to be a challenging experience for us. So what do we do when we've taken on the role of exiles and the world treats us accordingly as exiles? What do we do? And I think that's where we're going to really dive in over the course of the next 7 weeks to try to answer that question, because I think we get some really good answers from 1 Peter. The thing that stood out to me is I want to look real quickly in verses 6 and 7. So I'm going to read this out loud. If you're at home and want to follow with me, we're in verses 6 and 7. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. So rejoice greatly that though we suffer for a while, it refines our faith into something more valuable. You guys are aware, most of you, I'm assuming, if you're watching this, you're in right now on our account, so you probably know what I do for a living. My job is primarily counseling and therapeutic stuff with our Eastridge family. This has been a message, I know for me, clinically for a long time. It's a good, solid biblical message, and the message is challenges are meant to grow us into something better. That message sounded a lot different until 2020. It was almost like this abstract, life's going to get tough, but you got to pull yourself up.
It's going to hard to be patient in that grocery line, but as you wait, you'll be purifying yourself.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like this idea of suffering is going to be trying to find that parking spot, and that is going to be the hardest part of our day.
Yeah. Well, and so I've had conversations in the last few weeks, especially, and I'll be transparent. We'll be honest about our experience. I've had a lot of conversations lately where the optimism that I would have at other times, I struggle because, this is a really hard moment. This is a very difficult moment. This is a moment where I know a lot of you watching this, or you're having to watch this because class got taken away. And that is one very small example of the various ways that our culture has been changed and been stripped of some of the things that used to bring us so much joy. All right, so why am I Debbie Downing this entire conversation? Because something that has been resonating with me a lot lately is this passage, that these trials, these tribulations that we endure, we have to have the perspective on them that though we suffer grief in all kinds of trials, these have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. So that your faith can be proven. Do we believe as Christians, do we believe what we've been saying for a long time? Do we believe that we are not victims of our circumstances? Do we believe that our reward is bigger than the earthly rewards that people seek? Do we believe that God is in control even when things get hard? Do we believe that these things that we tell our kids about the sovereignty of God, these things that we teach in Sunday school, the things that we pray in our prayers, do we believe them? There's never been a time in our culture, at least in my lifetime, there's been times in our culture where things have been worse than they are now. But in my lifetime, there has not been a time in our culture where we've had more of an opportunity to suffer through trial with the goal of allowing it to focus our faith and our hope more on God than ever before.
I think there's some part of us in the back of our mind where we want to believe that faith somehow puts us under the magical umbrella of suffering is not going to have the same sort of effect on us as it did before. And there may be a piece of that are true as far as the support and the hope that we have through those things. They will get us through them. But absolutely, bad things are still going to happen to us. And I don't want us to fall into this trap of where we believe that because I have faith, that means suffering isn't going to affect me, or that means suffering won't even come. I don't even know, should we even believe that faith can truly be proven without suffering? Is that truly faith if nothing has ever been pushed back on? And I think that's the point Peter is making here. And to the teens watching, this is exactly what happens when you try to live out your faith and then someone pushes back on it or someone challenges your belief and makes you feel uncomfortable. That is supposed to happen. That is going to come. it's not a matter of you didn't have all the right answers, and so you have to suffer through this doubt, or you have to suffer through someone who feels like they're ganging up on you. That is part of the deal. We are living a separate life that people are going to push back against because they live in the world, partly because they don't know any better yet. So, anyways, that is a foregone conclusion. Suffering is a part of this chosen yet exiled legacy that we find ourselves in as Christians.
And not only useful for growth, but necessary for growth. I think
Yeah.
I think you said that really well. How strong is a faith that's never been tested? That is a question that is worth asking. How strong is a faith that's never been tested? The answer to that question is vital, and it's also vital to explore how you respond to that testing. We are in a testing moment right now. How you respond matters. All right, Alan, you had some thoughts for some other passages.
Yeah, let's go into this second section of 1 Peter when we get to verse 13, and especially verse 15 and 16, where we come to this section of just being holy. And I would say the big message here in 1 Peter chapter 1 is we need to live holy, set apart. We are this new priesthood, a holy people. But also that comes with a loving of others, that we are exiles in this world, but we are not meant to be totally separated where we do not interact with it. We are put here as a chosen people to interact in the world in the way that we love others because of the example of Jesus. Verse 13, therefore with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance, but just as is he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy because I am holy. Jesus is the example of someone who decides to live a holy, perfect life, but he does not take away the peace of loving others with that holiness. And in a lot of ways, I think that's where our suffering comes from, is that we want to live these holy lives, but we want to interact with love to this fallen world, to this world that has not chosen to live that holy life, that set-apart life. And that's where a lot of that dissonance and that friction happens, was when we try to pair those two things together, living holy and loving others, but at the same time, they're inseparable.
No, that's great. Going to be holy because I am holy. So a part of that popped out in my head was giving us the proper motivation is an important thing, and being holy because other people treat us well, or because the world is looks the way we want it to look, or because we have all the freedoms that we want, or because that makes holiness less about holiness than it does about reward. And that's not what holiness is designed to be. Be holy because I am holy. That verse, be holy because I am holy.
Right.
To me, that is the perfect motivation to keep in mind. If we lose our holiness, set apart, holy, set apart. If we lose that part of who we are, because things have gotten really hard in our culture, then we weren't motivated for the right reasons. If our holiness is based on whether or not the world around us accepts Christianity in the way that we want them to, if our holiness is based on Christianity being given preferential treatment, as it was for a very long time in this culture, if that's the root of our if we can be holy because it's the societal expectation,
it smooths the road out for you. Yeah.
But if that's the reason, then you're missing be holy. Why? Because I am holy. That is an important message. We are holy because Jesus is holy, not because of the way the world treats us.
A holiness, by the way, that led Jesus to his suffering, his torture, and ultimate death. Talk about an exile in his own culture. That was the life of Jesus Christ. And that makes me think of, you were talking about not just buying into this holy lifestyle because it somehow makes things easier. I think sometimes, even with the teens, there's this thought of, if I have a good enough prayer life, or if I'm kind of hitting all the marks of what a Christian's expected to do, that somehow socially at school things will be easier. And I'm not sure exactly where that comes from, but you may be having a great year with Jesus, and you are pursuing him, and may still be the only one sitting at your table in the cafeteria. That could be your reality. And I think sometimes that's when we question our faith the most, is when we think, well, if I'm truly have this faith, why am I suffering in this way?
That's right.
When really, that's maybe a better indicator that you are following your faith because you are suffering. Those are the times when sometimes we feel like God's furthest away, that we're actually closer to him than we've been when things were all going great and we felt like we didn't need him.
Well, so can I close things out? Because I think you may have just given us a good bookend.
Okay.
So we started this conversation by asking a question about exiles in this current culture. You just described choosing exile, and that you're going to feel like an exile. So if you hear us talking about Christian exiles and feeling like separate and apart from the culture, if you don't feel that, if you feel like, well, I'm not exiled, is it possible there's a reason? And is it possible that that reason is there's some characteristics and qualities of Christian living that you haven't grabbed onto? Because when you do, you're probably going to feel a sense of exile. Is that a fair thing to say?
It is. That may be the perfect time to do a little introspection and decide, am I trying to go with the flow, even with regards to my faith, or am I taking a hard line of, I'm going to follow my faith, even if that means I'm swimming upstream?
Love it. All right, any closing thoughts?
No. I love people, and I want to try to live holy. So that's what I'm going to do.
Live holy and love others. That was the other thing.
There you go.
All right, so we hope you'll join us for subsequent videos as well. 7 of these, and then we'll find another topic and we'll keep rolling.
Thanks for joining us, guys.